What's up, guys? Welcome to this training. This is the second time I've recorded this because I forgot to share my screen. So let me just get that rolling real quick. And we are in share screen mode. And let me see here. I am recording, so we're all good to go. So here's the presentation that I gave online. I just wanted to go over it with you guys for anybody who missed it. Just a lesson in business, building your dream business, looking at your business from a high level so you can make the necessary improvements for growth. Weldon Long tells a great story about this where you've got your frontline people and the path with machetes, and they're clearing the path for just through the jungle so we can travel through it easily, right? And they're on the front lines, and you get your managers behind them, and they're making sure that the machetes are sharp, and they're making sure that they're swinging the right motion so they don't get too tired, or they're giving them breaks when they need breaks. But then there's the owner. There's you. You're on a ladder or on a tree, and you're high above the canopy, and you're looking down, and you're trying to make sure that you're in the right jungle. I love that analogy because it's something that we need to make sure we're working on the right things in our business. So if our goal is to scale and grow, so we want to build a dream business, and one of the tools that we use to do that is what I'm going to show you. But here's some of the stuff we're going to talk about. As soon as this screen changes, there we go. We want to build a business that serves us. And there's 4 primary components to that. We got to paint our vision. Every successful business has a visionary. If you've read the book by Gino Wickman called Traction, he talks about, in all of Gino's books, I think, he talks about you got to have a visionary within the company, somebody who sees the future and has a vision of where they want the company to go. But then you also have to have an integrator. The integrator is who takes the things that it's going to take to get the business to where it needs to go and make sure that it gets implemented. And then you got to have control processes to make sure that it stays implemented. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue along this. But the second section, pipeline flow, which is leads, conversions, delivery, identifying the bottleneck. Chances are there's a bottleneck somewhere in your company. If there is, that's what's probably stifling the growth. And sometimes it takes just a small tweak to change things to where you can see some exponential growth. And but this high level overview, you still got to sometimes go deep into a particular area, but it helps you decide which area you're going to go deep in. And that's why this is so important. So this is a training that I learned somewhere else, and I just kind of built it myself, built my own spreadsheets here, or whatever you want to call them, my own presentation, so I could give it to you guys, just because I delivered it to my management team after I built it, because I thought it was that important. I just think it's good that we have this perspective as well. Sometimes we find ourselves in the trenches and we can't really see what's going on, or you're on the front lines as well, sometimes swinging the machetes. And sometimes you have to step back and take a high level overview of your business so you can tell what's stopping you from moving forward and actually gaining ground and moving in the direction you want to move. We'll talk about operations. Probably one of the top things is operations, because what gets measured gets managed. You got to build systems if you want to scale your business. Then we'll talk about becoming unstoppable to survive any economic downturns or unfortunate event that could happen in any of our lives at any given time. So that's some of the things we're going to cover. I'm going to move through this pretty swiftly. I'm going to talk pretty fast so we can get through it in a reasonable time. But number one, if we're going to, when we paint our vision, we got to know exactly where we want to head in the business. And part of that decision is deciding what we're going to spend our time on. We have to decide what's going to have the biggest return on our investment of our time, our energy, and our money. What will get us the biggest results, and which small actions get the biggest results, because sometimes it could just be a couple of tweaks and your business breaks through that barrier that you've been stuck at, wherever it is. Whether it's 300,000, 500,000, 1 million, 700,000, 1 million, 1.5 million. Sometimes little tweaks without adding a whole bunch of extra of anything, just tweaking what you currently have and what's currently available to you can actually get your business unstuck and get you moving again in the right direction, the direction that you envisioned. So we always have to look for bigger returns on our time, energy, and money. We always have to make sure that we are not working and obsessing over things that are not going to move the needle. Sometimes that means do less to get more. I want you to really pay attention to that right here on the screen. Do less to get more. That could be one of the most important things that I want to get across on this training, is that we got to figure out what is the stopping point, and only fix, so like when it comes to KPIs and measuring like what's happening in your business, to get started, you might just pick one, and then you might later add two. But we have to think of this from a strategic level of what are the two biggest things that's stopping me from moving forward? What are those two things? And then just focus on those until we nail it. And once we nail that, then we can find out what the next thing is. But we have to, chances are, no matter what size you are, there's a couple of tweaks that can provide big results. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and that is painting the vision. That is basically the number one step. You got to have a clear picture of where you want the business to go and what you want it to look like in 3 to 5 years. Like, how many trucks do you have? Even if you don't get that specific, how much revenue are you doing? How much profit do you want? How much of a salary are you taking at that point? But here's the important thing. You've got to share the vision with passion and enthusiasm with the team. And you got to talk about this nonstop. I don't care how many times, and you might feel like you're just a broken record and you're talking over and over and over again. It doesn't matter. Just keep talking about it. And how can you talk about where you're going and how you're going to get there and how exciting that is without getting some enthusiasm about it? And here's what I can tell you guys is enthusiasm is infectious. When you get enthused and you get excited, you get riled up and get animated. You got to get animated, like throw your arms up in the air and get crazy a little bit, because, hey, how exciting is it going to be to build this empire that you want to build? How is everybody's lives going to change in your company when that happens? And that's something you ought to get excited about. And if you're not getting excited about it, then you need to build a bigger vision. Adding 200,000 of revenue in 1 year, I don't know if that's going to change anybody's life. That may not be a big enough vision for you. Or in 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is, maybe it needs to be bigger. It's got to be something that you can get excited about, and then transfer that excitement and your enthusiasm to your team, and never, ever, ever stop talking about it. Talk about it every single week, once or twice a week. From here, today that you've seen this video, from here for the rest of your business's existence, you've got to talk about this and transfer this energy, because this is what gets people excited, and it should get you excited too, and get you just looking forward to the future, because you really can create. You can create and design your own future. There's people out there doing it. You cannot deny that there's people out there doing what you would like to do. So if that's the case, why not you? Why not you? You work hard. You do a good job. You serve your customers. You serve your employees. Why not you? So you got to get excited about this stuff and explain how everyone's lives are going to change. Like, talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about that. That's exciting. Gets me excited just talking about it right here. Don't forget to talk about the impact also that we're making in this world for the families we serve. That's the great thing about our business, the HVAC business, is that we're not selling trinkets and widgets. It's not shit that people don't need. It's stuff that people really do need. And it's stuff that we save lives. We save lives. We increase families' health with indoor air quality products. and we provide an honorable service to our customers, and it's something to be proud of. And so you got to talk about that too. Is how are we gonna impact our community? How are we gonna impact the families we serve? One way that we impact our community is we donate stuff. So like we're doing our historical museum, which is a very small little museum from a little small town that I live in, where they needed some heating and cooling for one of their storage buildings. So we're going to be donating a mini split system to them. I think it's two heads and one outdoor unit, a 2-to-1. And we're going to donate that to them because we want to give back to our community. And that's exciting to me. And it's something I'm proud of. And it's not that much. I know it's not that much, but you got to start somewhere. So how are we going to impact our community? What are you going to do? How do you impact your customers' lives every day? Next, we're going to talk about pipeline flow. So, of course, you got your acquisition leads that come into your company. That's when the phone rings through your marketing effort, whatever. Then you've got your conversion of those leads, which is getting the customer who calls actually booked on your schedule. And then you get the delivery of service, and there's actually some conversion in that delivery of service as well. But this is a high-level overview. You know, when you go to deliver the service, do you have a process for pulling up to the house and knocking on the door? Do you have a process for ensuring that customer has a good experience with you? That's the delivery of the service, that we're doing the job. You know, we're doing the job, we're doing it well. Then you've got the fourth component, which is just the throughput, which is just measuring A, B, and C. So imagine A, B, and C here, A, B, C, and D. These are valves that can be partially closed or all the way closed. And we need to open those valves all the way open so we can get a steady flow of cash into our business. So this is extremely high level. Okay, do we have enough leads? Are they coming in? Yes or no? How about, what if we have the leads coming in? And the only way to look at this is to measure it. Like, you can't just say, well, yeah, my phone rings a lot. No, you need to know, how many times is the phone ring? What's your booking percentage? Like, you may have to really dig deep into this, but this is strictly from a high level. Then you have your conversion of leads. Okay, well, how are we handling those customers when they do call our company? Because if we don't handle them right, they're just going to say, okay, let me call my husband and I'll call you back. And then they never call back. Or they'll book something and then they cancel. So we got to figure out what we're doing on the phones and try to get better. And then we have delivery of service. Do you have a service call process? Do you have a estimate process or sales process when somebody calls and just wants to upgrade their equipment, or it was diagnosed by another company and they want you to come out and give them a quote because they're getting quotes? Do you have a process for that? Or is it just like, you know, emailing bids? If that's your process, that is definitely a blocked off pipeline flow for you. You can't just email bids. It takes a sit down presentation, because you're not selling a $5 Big Mac. You know, you're selling a $8,000 to $15,000 system that these people are going to have to live with for the next 10 to 15 years, right? So we have to figure out, where are we not maximizing what we currently have? And the only way to do that is by measuring some of this stuff. So then once we measure it and we say, oh, hey, you know what? We have enough manpower to do 3 more calls every day. That could be a bottleneck for us. What if we could get to those 3 customers every day? Well, I might need to hire somebody. So that would be my fix for that. But then I'm going to need to train them and whatever else. Maybe we book the calls and we get out there, but our average ticket's too low. So where is the bottleneck? This is just strictly a high level, like I said, overview. But our goal is to free up all stages of the pipeline. That way that money can flow here. So operations. This is one of the big ones, because you cannot scale without systems. So you got to become the master when systems and process, well, you become the master when your systems and processes are running. Now, when you don't have processes and systems, you are the slave to the work, period. And it doesn't change. And the problem is those you don't have predictable results. And that's what systems and processes do, is they create predictable results. You've still got to measure them to ensure that you're getting the results that you're after by implementing a process or a system. But once it's done, you measure it. Hey, did things improve? Yes or no? And the goal is absolutely to improve them, because that's what's going to allow you to scale. So once you get, once you look at that pipeline flow overview, here's even a wider lens view, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to go even higher here. We basically have, this is like a scalability model. This is what you're doing to scale your business. Is you've got input, which I just call that calls. Then you've got doing the work, booking the call, going and actually delivering the goods or the service. And then your output, results. You've got a working system when you leave, and then you go down here to feedback. What's the feedback with the customer? What's the feedback with the employees? What's the feedback with management? Is it positive or negative? You got to look at all of those things. If it's negative, we've got to tweak it, fix it. If it's positive, then we can just keep repeating this same circle, and then we just go back to input. So if it's negative, for instance, we would fix it and then fix it before the input, if possible. That way it's a system and it flows much nicer without a bunch of waves. But to scale, your output, your results, it's not just going to be the results of a finished product and making a sale. It's going to also be the money that you get from making the sale. So if whatever those results are, in order to scale, you got to take them, swing them back around and put them into the input, which is, we got to get more leads, more clients. And however you do that, you can spend more money on your existing customers. Hey, if you don't like marketing and if you're not like constantly looking for new customers, well, you still got to put some money back into marketing to your existing customers, because what happens if they don't see you for a couple years? Well, they may call somebody else, and we don't want that to happen. So in order to keep our customers, we got to keep reaching out and touching them, and letting them know that we exist and we're still here to serve them. Next, we have what typically happens with most companies through the scaling process is, first off, there that message there at the very top of this screen here, with every new customer, our goal has to be to increase the customer experience. We got to make it a good experience for them, and we got to be constantly searching for ways to make it better. But in this diagram here, this is typically what happens. Whenever we decide to scale, or we naturally scale just by taking good care of our clients and being there when they need us, we will naturally scale. If we do a good job, if we show up on time, if we're, just do the basic things, and treat them with respect and treat their home with respect. We do the basic things without question. We're still going to get more clients, which when we get more clients, we get more work. When we get more work, we typically start having less time. When we have less time and we're rushed or whatever the case, or we have to hire people without systems and processes in place, is we start getting worse results, which can result in less clients. And the YouTube video that I did that was similar to this diagram right here, what happens typically, we may get less clients, but that's where it's a frustrated, horrible place, and the business, the owner is suffering at that point. And when he's suffering or she's suffering, it gets to a point where they may decide to close the business or fix stuff and then keep going. But a lot of times the pain is so great that people will just quit and give up. And that's not what I don't want for you if your goal is to grow your business. But pain can get the best of people and make them decide otherwise. Even though they've put in all this work to get more clients and more work, and they've been missing time with their families. Well, if you fix some stuff, you can gain that time back and continue to scale and grow and get more work and more business and more money. And so how do we fix this? That's the question. How do we fix this cycle right here? Well, could be more support. And when I say support, think of once again, a small input can gain tremendous output or results. So think about like your relationship with your supply house, for instance. What if I found that I was making an extra trip to the supply house every week to go pick up equipment or something, because they only deliver to me once a week? Well, how could I get more support from them? Maybe I call them and say, could you come out and just deliver one more time? Because that little thing right there could completely drastically change your business depending on what's going on in your business. And as long as you have plenty of sales happening, maybe it's training. Maybe the leads are not being converted and booked on the phone because we don't handle customers properly. Here's how we used to answer our phone: McKay's Heating and Cooling. Now I changed changed our name to Service HQ. Well, sometimes, I've still heard it once in a great blue moon, somebody will answer phone, Service HQ. Well, that's not really a proper greeting. And it goes way deeper than that. We need to get better on the phones, and then we need to get better in the field. We need to have processes for that help create sales, and it helps create the customer getting more of what they need, and helps the company by being able to provide that service and sell that product more often. Maybe we need people. Maybe there's a shortage of people. Maybe I have 3 extra calls that I could go do, but I don't have the people to do it. Maybe I need to hire somebody, or at least get somebody in to start training. So eventually we could take on those extra 3 calls a day that we already have. Maybe it's automation. How much stuff is taking up so much of your time right now that possibly could be automated? Think about that, because that's a big one. And with the worldwide interweb, like you can automate so much of your stuff, and all these fancy programs for your service dispatch and your service invoices. Find out more about automation. You got to be able to measure results. That goes, sometimes the automation, instead of you having to track all the KPIs, it can do it for you. Our booking percentage on real opportunity calls, like that's something that I automate. The provider who records our phone calls when customers call our business, I went ahead and paid extra because I don't want to have to listen to every call and decide whether it was a book call or not. So I pay extra so they'll determine what our booking rate is. That way I know that number, and that's a really important number. It's probably one of the most important jobs in the heating and air conditioning business, is the people who answer the phone, because that's the first contact that your customer has with you. And it's got to be a good one. You only get one chance to make a first impression, right? So it may just take a tweak. It may take a small tweak. We've been stuck at our revenue for a couple years, and we just made a couple of tweaks because we learned some new information that we didn't know before, and that's moved the needle. Now we've already surpassed a month ago. We surpassed, and that was September. We surpassed what we did last year and the year before that. So it's going to be it's a growth year for us. Sometimes you do have to take a step back and maybe not grow in revenue and fix things before you can actually scale and grow, because you want to grow the right way if possible. Excuse me. You got to amplify the customer experience. Once again, the better experience customer has with us, the more likely we're going to get more of them. And you guys all know that a referral customer is so much better than just a cold customer who's never had any interaction with you or doesn't know anybody who's had interaction with you. To become unstoppable, this goes into metrics. You cannot fix what you can't see. You may have a feeling that something's wrong, but I'm telling you, you really don't know until you dig into it and measure some stuff. So I may feel like a technician, I may say, man, he's got low invoices. He's just not converting like he should. He's not running the process that we have to upsell people and to get them the products and the service that we provide that they already need. Maybe he's not doing a good job, or she's not doing a very good job. Well, it's one thing to have that feeling, but I'm telling you, I've been way wrong on that before. So just from experience, I'm just telling you, you got to measure it. You got to have some type of a metric, or you're just taking a wild ass guess. Number two, you got to understand what's been being measured. So whatever it is you're measuring, you got to know what it's going to take to fix it or tweak it. Make sure that it's the right KPI that you need. Like I said, I think I said at the beginning, you only pick one or two things. If you're just new to this and you're starting out, pick one or two things that would make the biggest impact in your company. Try to measure those first. Like, do whatever it takes to get those measured first. Control the process system. So I can't tell you how many times that we've implemented something, because I know I'm seeing all this success from other companies, and I'm like, dude, we got to do this. We got to do this. And we'll put it into place and train it and spend time and effort. But then it just, after 3 weeks, it just drops off. And then it usually happens because we get busy. And when we get busy, that's where the service can be worse for people, more clients. Remember, we have less time because we got more clients because we're busy. Well, that is when it's so crucial to control that process and system, to ensure that it's staying in place, that it's being performed every single call. Let me tell you a story real quick about process and systems, just to give you an idea of how important they are. Walt Disney, they have a cruise. I don't know if it's at both parks. There's Disneyland, which I think is in California, and then there's Disney World in Florida, I believe. Well, they have the Jungle Cruise. So Walt Disney came, and he's very particular about the experience, the client experience. He wanted each customer, each client, which are clients of his, you buy the park pass and you go to Disneyland, you're a client of Walt's, or you're a customer. So he wanted them to have the same experience on all these rides. Whatever that ride was, it needed to be the same experience repeated over and over and over again. On the Jungle Cruise, and he has the manager of the Jungle Cruise leading it, and he's just riding it. And he gets on the boat, and the guy takes him through the ride, basically. And they get done, and it was 4 minutes long. And he's like, Bob, this is supposed to be 7 minutes long. It can't just be 4 minutes. And Bob is like, well, Walt, let's take another ride. You tell me exactly what you want it and how you want it done, and I'll do that. So Walt did. They got back on the boat. They took the cruise around, and Walt showed him exactly what to say, where to stop, how long to stop, everything about the ride. So Bob goes to work, and then Walt leaves, after that. So Bob is like, whoa, okay, man, I got to fix this. So he works with all of his staff, all of the people that are under him, because he's the manager of the ride. He works with them to get them to do this identical thing that Walt wants it to be done, because he wants that customer to have the same experience. So they weeks and weeks go by, and Walt would just wave. But one day he finally did stop in there, and he jumped on the first boat. And Bob's like, oh my goodness, okay, here we go. Please take 7 minutes. Please take 7 minutes. Please take 7 minutes. And sure enough, the boat showed up right in 7 minutes, the end of the ride. So he's like, yes, he's happy about that, because he wants to make sure that that it's being done the way Walt wants it done. Then Walt gets off that boat, walks to the next boat. He's like, oh my gosh. So, and there's a new driver on that boat. So he's watching, please be 7 minutes, please be 7 minutes. Sure enough, 7 minutes, the boat arrives. Then Walt gets off that boat, walks to the next one. Walt does this and rides 7 to 8 boats. All the boats that were in the fleet all had different drivers. He rides every single one of them. Every single one of them took 7 minutes. Walt gets off, didn't even talk to Bob. He just waves at him, gave him the thumbs up, walks off. These little stories like this, I'm sure there's 1,000 more about Walt Disney, people who are just unbelievable. Somebody who nobody believed in him. I mean, laughed at him for wanting to make characters. I mean, back then they thought he was crazy. But Walt had to have been brilliant to be able to go through the hard times of. I know he had ups and downs and hard times, but he made it, and he also was able to build his vision. And here's what I can tell you about a vision: is when you speak it, it's going to form and shape the way you think about it. And when you start thinking about it, that's when you want to take action towards it. And when you take action towards it, that's when you actually get the results that you're looking for. So that's why it's so important to speak your vision all the time. And Walt did that. And I just thought that was a great story. And it kind of helps you wrap your brain around, think about that in your business. Like, how do you want the phones to be answered? How do you want that service call to be ran? What interactions with the customer do you want to happen? You need to decide all of those things. And then, Tommy Mello, who owns A1 Garage Door, he's going to do probably $40 million this year. He knows processes and systems. That's the only way you can scale any business, is with process and systems. And he's been able to do it quite well. So he says that, whatever that task is, you want it to be done 80%, at least 80% of the way you want it done. The other 20%, they can make it that part of it their own. But there's some specific key things. Maybe it's a key phrase that you say to a customer. Maybe it's a key action. Maybe you tilt your head a certain way and smile a certain way. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, these little tweaks like this can make all the world of difference in your business. So you got to control the process and systems, just like Walt did. And ultimately, to become unstoppable, we want reserves. Because what normally happens when people, I can tell you that I have a perfect system for struggling with money. Especially with my company, not so much now, although we still have good times and bad times. But I can tell you that I had developed the perfect system for struggling with money, and I'm going to tell it to you if you're interested. My perfect system, and I'm a professional. I just want to tell you, I'm a professional. I'm struggling with money, so listen up. So first off, when you're flush with cash, make unnecessary buying decisions. Like make some extra purchases when you're flush with cash. That's my number one rule when it comes to being really good at struggling with money. Number two, don't look at your finances. If you don't look at them, it makes it easier to not pay attention to what's actually happening. So that would be my second rule. Don't look at the finances. My third rule in my perfect system here for struggling with money would be, when times are good, give raises to everybody. Yeah, that works. And I could go on, but you get my point. I've got a perfect system for it. You probably have a perfect system for something in your business that's keeping you stuck. And so that's why I say that with humor, because I had that perfected. But let's move on here. The reason we want reserves is so we can survive an economic downturn. And there's no question we're going to see a downturn economically in the next couple of years. It's going to happen. We're like on the longest bull market ever. And it's history does, and the market will correct itself. When that happens, people are going to lose a lot of money. And everybody, what happens last time in 2008, whether it was directly affected somebody or not, they still their butthole clenches up and they stop spending money. So that's going to happen again. And we need to survive that. So we've got to keep our cash reserves. But here's another thing. If you're small, what if you get sick? Like, how is your business going to? This is why it's so important, if you plan on staying in business for a long time, that I really urge people to just grow enough to where the company can run by itself. Because if you don't, what if you get sick? Then the business collapses. What if you got hurt? What if you couldn't work for a month? What's going to happen to the business if you can't work for a month? Well, if it's going to go under, which it could, if you don't got reserves in the bank already, and even if you got reserves, how many customers are you going to lose if you can't go to work for a month? So that's why I urge you to at least grow. You don't have to grow great big, but grow to a point where the company, with processes and systems, it runs without you. What if you lost a key player? And we've all probably lost a key player. If you've been in business for any amount of time, you've lost one before. And you've been able to survive, or you haven't. But usually, what happens is if it's a very small team, you lose a key player, everybody has to work harder to keep up. But that's the sign of a great culture too, is when everybody does step up and you conquer it, and it works. But I'm just saying, it helps to have some reserve for that. And what if you got sued? I've heard horrific stories of people getting sued for such a minor thing. I don't know the entire story. I just know that you can get for something that you've already had happen before. And just depends on who you're dealing with. And that's a scary thing. So we got to have some cash reserves. And believe me, guys, I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching here. Like, I'm trying to build reserves as we speak, because I'm not where I want to be yet in business. And that's why this training was like eye-opening. I'm like, yeah, this is right. Like, this is the way it needs to be. We need to have reserves. We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our babies, our businesses. So let's see, what do I have next here? And that's pretty much the whole presentation. So I'm not going to keep you, I'm not going to go into this stuff. I just want to give the main presentation, and it's something I've been wanting to do, but I took some time off. And so I'm back in the office, and I wanted to get this out to you. So I greatly appreciate you listening, guys. Love you guys so much. Thank you for all the kind messages I get. I get messages all the time, and just keep them coming. I greatly appreciate them. It makes me feel like I should be doing this stuff, because I feel like I just want to give back, because I was in such a bad place for so long in my company, and I don't want other people to suffer like I was suffering. And I'll tell you right now, you're not alone. If you are suffering, if you are struggling, you're not alone. There's lots of other people out there struggling and suffering too. So sometimes reaching out to somebody can just help put it back into perspective, or maybe help tweak a few things so you can actually start moving in the business again. So if you guys ever have any trouble or any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me at HVACmillionaire@gmail.com. I'd love to connect with you. If it's right, we'll get on the phone together, and I'd love to learn what you're doing that's working. And absolutely, if I have any insight to share, if you would like it, I'd be happy to share it as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share this with somebody that might enjoy it, and maybe it's something that they need to hear as well. If maybe you work for a struggling company, there could be something in here that maybe helps them change their view on how things are going, how things are working, what's working, what's not. And maybe it could just be the catalyst that changes the business in a very positive way. So greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Please like this and subscribe. And absolutely, you got to go make money. That's what it's all about, right? The primary objective of your company is to earn a profit. And if you're earning a profit, then you're making money. So guys, take care. We'll see you later.